taking you home on a Friday. We've got an action-packed show lined up today. Clifford, what do you got for us today?
We got plenty. The whole world of sports in a week, condensed, distilled and spilled for you here at Salford City Radio. We've got obviously the international weeks and Rooney, but we've got some suggestions for you to do next week to get yourself a little bit healthier, a little bit more shinier of skin perhaps, so some suggestions. And the big news tonight is it's the Greater Manchester Sports Awards over at the Point in Old Trafford cricket ground. So we'll be seeing who's up from Salford area who are going to win any awards tonight. So that's the big local news. But there's plenty more to come here. Also, whose 44th birthday is it today? Maybe one of the most famous sports men from our parish here in Manchester. Have a guess. I'll give you some quotes and some clues. But yeah, in the debate, the disparity between grassroots and the national game. It's a big difference with 5 million as a walkaway present for the head of the Premier League, Peter Scudamore, and also referees being left at the grassroots level, being attacked, sacked by the FA. So we're going to look at, that's the debate tonight, the disparity in sports, especially football, between the top and the bottom. It's a good show. I'm looking forward to it.
It is indeed. And get involved. Get involved. Email us your thoughts. You've got our Facebook page, the Friday Weekly Sports Show. Get involved. Let us know your thoughts. Your thoughts are important to us, and do get involved. Speaking of internationals, Clifford, what did you make of the international this week, the England game against USA?
It had a fascinating mood, didn't it? Very unusual. It was a bit of a free hit psychologically for the players, even though it was a big game for Jadon Sancho. Big game. Probably a lot of you have not really seen him until last night, me included. And Wilson, Callum Wilson. So it was a strange kind of schizophrenic affair, because there was some big moments for debut players, Wilson scoring, but it was also about, can Rooney score a goal on so it was a bit of a strange affair, but I think all told, I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think Southgate would be happy with the performance and the win. Obviously, it's teasing up nicely to play against Croatia on the weekend, and you can only beat what's in front of you. I don't think the USA was one of the best USA teams, and I think that England dominated the game from start to finish. But it was a fitting end to a fitting career. And what do you make of Rooney's career, Clifford? I mean, there's no debating he's a phenomenal player for England. He's achieved a lot, club and country. Certainly for his club, he's won a number of things. And what would you say? How would you sum up Wayne Rooney's career? And anyone listening, how would you sum up Wayne Rooney's career? Did he live up to his expectation and when he burst on the scene? Or
he's probably got one of the most peculiar careers I can think of. And by that, I mean, he was virtually ready at 18, burst onto the scene. If you can remember 2004, he owned that tournament, and him, along with his professionals, are very sure in the idea that we would have won that if he didn't get injured, if he didn't break his metatarsal. So, you know what? He's won Champions Leagues, but I'm going to be controversial and think he's underachieved. You look at his stablemate Ronaldo, who's older than him, who's still now at the very, very top. Just scored one of his great goals for the Champions League, one of many. Yeah. They're very good. It's very good as a comparison, those two.
I think it's tough to compare the two, because Ronaldo, he is definitely, I would say, a natural athlete. And looking at Ronaldo, and that's not to say Rooney isn't an athlete. He's obviously physically strong, and he's got a good physique to play football. But Ronaldo is genetically an athlete. And I think for me, he's got all the attributes to be the modern day footballer. I think that's the difficult thing to compare the two. I think that to begin with, and also Ronaldo, I think that he's the sort of player that comes along, I think, once every generation. I mean, him and Messi have sort of neck to neck, divided both camps. Some people
but
say,
how much is it dedication? I don't like this idea of natural sportsman. I know what you mean in terms of. I know what you mean in terms of frame. Yeah, it's perfect, but the frame, 6'2", not too heavy set, the perfect blend of stealth and strength. But the mind is everything, and we can go through any example in history. If you're committed, application will get there every time. And let's be honest, Rooney has only gone one way, internationally speaking, now from 2004. Underwhelmed, progressively underwhelmed, tournament after tournament, considering that he could have been I don't think he's quite at the level he should have been. I think he had the potential and the capacity, and that sounds folly if you look at what he's achieved at Manchester United. Was sensational by anyone's account, leading goal scorer for England and Manchester United. But I think he could. I think if he looked after himself, I don't think he's looked after himself well enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult one to say. I think for me, he's like he says before. I think he's won everything there is to win at the game. Definitely at club level, international level, he was part of the golden generation, so to speak, the famous golden generation. Albeit, I would say it's debatable. I think that they were an outstanding set of players, but I would debate that. I think that I wouldn't say they were overrated, but I think for me, there were times that certain players were injured, certain players were suspended, certain players weren't on top form. I don't think there's a time when England at that point actually fielded their top 11. And there's always debate who they should play. I mean, the reality is for me, to leave players like Scholes out is just... I can't get my head around how you can't build a team around Scholes, let alone leave him out to play on the left-hand side, wherever they decided to play him. But all things said and done, I think for me, looking at other teams too, at that point in time, there are other teams, really, really good players too. I would say that Rooney, at club level, achieved pretty much everything that he set out to achieve. What would have been interesting had he have gone to maybe Italy or Spain to test himself? I think that's the only disappointment for me. Could he have gone to Real Madrid?
Well, what about Everton? By his own admission last night, he was saying that he could have lasted longer. He could have been a first-team player at Manchester United. Well, he went to Everton and it didn't work, which is another... Because they're in a bit of disarray from the top-down management. And just going back to the international scene where he was sat last night in the dressing room with all the young kids and this great hope now that's enveloping the nation again, I think it must have been very poignant for him, because England, for me, were mismanaged for 10 to 12 years of his career. First two coaches were too passive, Sven-Göran Eriksson and McLaren were far too passive and nearly sycophantic towards the superstar first crop of golden generation, and they didn't manage. They needed a strong leader with clear ideas. Wasn't managed. They just played they just picked the best players, the favourite players, and then with Capello went, of course, the other way: austerity, harshness, discipline. Also didn't respond well. But the golden generation were dying out. So, and then he had Roy Hodgson. It's a terrible shower of a leadership. So overall, the whole thing was spoiled. And when he was sat last night with a clear management, with a clear idea of a team, he must have been feeling privately a bit upset. And he was in tears afterwards, wasn't he, in the dressing room? Yeah,
it's ironic, isn't it, really, when you think about it, that a lot of that team from last night played in a semi-final, in the squad of a
already,
semi-final.
since he's left, they made a semi-final.
Precisely. I think looking at that from that perspective, but equally saying that I think that tournament football is never cut and dry, and I think that you look at it and you think, well, they'll knock down a penalty shootout.
No, the performances were uniformly miserable.
They weren't great, but you got to say that also the run.
There was no cohesion in 10 years. No cohesion.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, had they have had the same run, the team that in the last World Cup got to semi-finals, they probably would have got to semi-finals as well. I just think the England team, they came across against players and it's not easy. Tournament football's not easy. It's all on a day. I thought England were unlucky.
Yeah, but there's got to be some
Capello,
cohesion.
they played against a German team that would go on to...
Yeah, but they weren't convincing the whole tournament. They scraped through.
Yeah.
But there was not one conviction.
But a lot of teams do, and interesting to see what the listeners think too. I think a lot of teams do. And you look at all the teams that have won a World Cup, they just stutter through and they just do enough and they can put off the foot on the gas when they need to be. And I think for me, I would say, in my opinion, that the press, they sort of build a team up and then they guide them. It's like, well, just let them play. And
I don't know. We can't.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But I do think for me, Rooney, outstanding player. I think that he achieved so much at club level. At country, he probably didn't achieve what he wanted to achieve. But that said, it's not all down to his doing. I think the points you made are quite valid, but also it's multifactorial. But we shall see. I think it's a new generation. It's a new dawn. How far do you think this set of players can go, Clifford? What's your thoughts? And what's your thoughts listening out there? What do you think this current crop of England players, young players coming through, they've won stuff at youth level. Can these guys go on and win something? Email us. Get in touch via the Facebook page, the Friday Weekly Sports Show. What are your thoughts, Clifford? Can this group of youngsters go on and win stuff?
Okay, the one condition which is valid is that it was an easy route to the semi-final. But my point is, for the last 2 years we've had a clear blueprint from management, a clear idea of what the players want to do. And the most beautiful thing I've seen from being an England fan since 2004 is that we played football, cohesive, passing, still not to the level of ball possession of the Spanish or the Germans, but we played some football. Like at Manchester United now, we just want to see some football. And I'm excited about the youth because they've all gone now through the FA's head of academy at Burton-upon-Trent and this whole blueprint, and they're successful at youth level. I think before that they just got the superstars in, just threw them in the team, and was like, you do well, you're great. You do what you're great. It's just nice to be here. Like Sven-Goran Eriksson and McLaren. Oh, and all calling them by their first names, and all the nicknames, and all that culture.
Too cozy, I think, for
all
sure.
All that culture. This team is serious. I mean, Sancho, he's come out of nowhere. We already have a very promising team now. The midfield was always a problem, centre midfield, but before he got injured, Chamberlain was doing great for Liverpool to come back.
But, I mean that's the interesting thing. I mean, you look at a midfield like in years gone by, you got Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, and how can you not get those players to gel and play together? Goodness me, it's like
it's mismanagement. It's just straight mismanagement.
Paul Scholes, Lampard, and Gerrard. You've got three players like that at your disposal.
And Michael Owen, Wayne Rooney,
precisely,
Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Ashley
midfield
Cole.
on its own. You kind of think the midfield on its own. You kind of think, well, they couldn't play them together. And I think for me, obviously Beckham as well on the right hand side.
Well, the rule of thumb apparently is that you need 7 world-class players to win something, which is unusual. They reckon a tipping point is 6 or 7.
They say that, but there's teams that have punched above their weight. You go back to the European Cup we talked about in 2004, and Greece won that, and it goes to show. You don't need to have the best. That's not undermining their team. They were a good team.
And they're a good advert for what went wrong with England. Because it's a beautiful thing to be great in the sum of your parts and well drilled.
Well organised.
That will win 80% of the time. Organised cohesiveness.
Precisely. It's a bit like Leicester in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago to win the league. You kind of think, well, it just goes to show when you galvanise a team, anything's possible. You can punch above your weight. Some teams punch above their weight. Some teams don't perform anywhere near what they can, but you have to say that this team here, one thing I like about this team here is that I think, Wilson, for example, he got the goal, really workmanlike, just kept going. I think for me, that's important to sort of keep going, stick to your guns, stay to your game plan.
Yeah, Wilson was nervous. I think Wilson and Dunk last night were the two most nervous players, and it showed in Dunk, it affected his game, and Wilson... he missed a couple of chances early on, and you're right. He's been going his whole career back from 2 crucial ligaments.
Precisely.
And he was turning out a few years ago, as a loan on the Conference League.
Precisely.
So it's a beautiful thing.
But that's a good thing, isn't it? I think that's a good thing to think that, certain players, they get loaned out, and we've seen the likes of Vardy. He's done his time over at Halifax and so on and so forth. And you know what? I think for me, first-team football is key. Whether you play first-team football in this country or whether you go abroad to play... Sancho, whether you play abroad, I think irrespective of that, just playing first-team football, getting out there and playing against first-team footballers is important. And rather than being stuck in that reserve team league and reserve team league, the intensity is not there. That's really important. But do you think, I'm going to put you on the spot, Clifford, do you think that can this team win stuff? What do you think?
Yeah.
And if you're listening out there, drop us a line, Weekly Sports Show. Do you think this current crop of England players can win stuff? I think they can.
That's after watching England tournament by tournament frustrate me for 15, 16
I think they
for
can.
my whole life. But they can.
Yeah.
I think they can.
I mean, for me, there's only one standout team at the moment, and that's the French. They've got players that are head and shoulders above the rest. They are, credit to them. I think they won the World Cup in cruise control. They had the extra gear. They got players like Mbappe and Pogba when he performs, and they are, for me, at a different level at the moment. And that's, for me, the benchmark. Can England get a couple of creative players that can mix it on the day and turn a game? Because you take a French team and they don't need to be playing well, and they've got match winners. And that's what you need sometimes. You need someone who can take the game by the scruff of the neck and get you a goal out of nowhere or put a cross in. And I think at this moment in time, England don't really have that. They don't have a...
They haven't got a settled midfield, I'd say.
Precisely.
They need a settled, solid midfield outside of that.
But you've got the Tottenham contingent there. They're young and vibrant, and they've got a lot of pace, and you've got players that are coming through.
Who's the next big central midfielder, though, for England that's going to win the tournament? I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Foden, but he's an attacking mid. But who's the workhorses in centre midfield?
I would go so far to say that in the World Cup, Gareth Southgate accepted they didn't have that, and that's why I think that he focused heavily on
five-man defence.
Precisely. I think he said, you know what, we don't have a Messi, we don't have a Ronaldo, we don't have a Mbappe, a Pogba, but what we do have is 3 or 4 players that can galvanise a team.
And credit to him, he diagnosed a problem, he had a plan. Everyone was clearly understood what was, and it got to the semis.
But I think that'll get you to the semi-final, but to get to a final, to beat a Croatia, speaking of Croatia, they play them again on the weekend, to beat a Croatia.
What a game. When
you're 1-0 up, and then Modric gets on the ball and starts running the show. And for me, the most underrated player in world football for me, Clifford, is Mandzukic. What a player.
Interesting.
I mean, I think so. And
he's just retired, hasn't he, for the national team?
Well, I watch the Serie A regularly, as you all know, and I see him in the Serie A, and I think week in, week out, he is the most underrated player. Had he have won as many finals as he's been in, I think he would have been nominated for a lot more awards. And you think, goodness me, this player, he just does not stop working. And if any young player is aspiring to be a professional, just look at that player. He just does not stop.
And with no little skill, he scored a great goal in the Champions League final to get them back into it. And he scored the winner against England in extra time.
Indeed. And on the weekend, he scored a goal against AC Milan, just drifts at the back post for Juventus. But goes in and bang.
This brings me on now to this new format, which is actually a success because they've grouped the teams in ability, not just a 2 years of dead leg qualifications. I think it just about ruined everyone's bon ami in the last 10 years. So this is a big success. Suddenly, Sunday's a crunch match. And anyone can win this Group A. It's already exciting. Only 3 teams, which is interesting. And there's every outcome is possible on this table.
Yeah, I think
England could qualify, or be knocked, or they can come first, or they can be relegated. So can Croatia.
I think
so can Spain.
Winning's a habit, and I think winning for me is habitual, and I think that it's always good to win. I think for me, from a psychological point of view, you put a marker down, you go out there, and you got to win every game. On that note, drop us an email, get involved in the Facebook page, the Weekly Sports Show. After the break, we're going to be talking about referees.
Untitled 10 for all the best in local, indie and electronica, with a few classics thrown in as well, and plus the odd special guests as well. I want to play this guy as well. Oosh, bang tidy. So that's the Monty Show every Tuesday night 9 till 10 on 94.4 FM Salford City Radio, or listen online www.salfordcityradio.org. Tunage!
And you're listening to Salford City Radio 94.4 FM with me, Jimmy Petruzzi, and Clifford Tyrone on the Weekly Sports Show, the Friday Weekly Sports Show. Clifford, I believe you've got some details of tonight's Sports Award. Manchester Sporting City, known around the world for its sport. Who's nominated? That's
right. Greater Manchester Sports Award in its 6th year of incarnation, and Andy Burnham's hosting it, the mayor himself. It's a great night for everyone, and our own parish here of Salford have got quite a few people nominated, and so we want to say good luck to Cadishead Rhinos for Salford Club of the Year. That's tonight, and that's held at the Emirates at Old Trafford. Good luck also to Ewan Wilson, Salford Sports Achiever of the Year. We'll give you all the update about this next week. A roundup of what happened, who won. But good luck to Danny Royal, Salford Disabled Sports Achiever of the Year. He's going for tonight. Also, there's more people. There is. Good luck to Oakwood Academy. That's a school here that's being nominated in the Salford PE Sports Award this evening. So there you go. Let's hope we get a winner. And there's going to be lots more as well coming from local clubs. We're going to look just after the 22. We're going to look into Eccles Rugby Union Football Club. It's a bit of a lonely furrow here in rugby league line. I think it's the only union club in Salford, so we'll be looking at them. All rugby clubs are great places to go socially, as well as If you're interested in the competition of it, it's even better. Get shorts on and get rucking, but even socially, they're great institutions. So I'll be telling you a bit more about Eccles Rugby Union FC after the next break, but good luck to everyone tonight from Salford City at the Greater Manchester Awards.
Yeah, good luck indeed, and it's a prestigious award, and I think it's to be nominated and to be there is a fantastic achievement, and good luck to everyone participating in the awards. I wish you all the best, and we'll definitely keep you updated next week with all the results. Now, speaking of referees, we were speaking about referees off air before. Tell us about some of the developments in the refereeing world, Clifford, that's been going on.
Well, the story that's caught our attention this week is an amateur referee, and let's not be in any doubt, this is one of the most testing roles in any job in any part of the world, to be an amateur referee. He has been sacked by the FA for using his ingenuity. He was about to kick off. He obviously didn't have a whistle. Oh no, a coin. He didn't have a coin. So he chose rock, paper, scissors to choose which team kicks off. Now the FA have come down heavy on him and banned him. And then this is the same week that there's also a referee with his jaw broken, to give you an idea of what they're facing down there. It's a tough life as an amateur referee. He didn't get any back in. So what's your idea? What's your take on this, people of Salford? And anywhere you're listening in the world online right now, you can listen at TuneIn as well. Yeah. What is your take on the FA's deal on it? I think there's going to be a official, other referees, amateur referees tomorrow are going to protest in solidarity with him. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know the full story behind it all, but what I would say is that the behaviour towards referee can be disgusting at times, to say the least. And I mean, these referees, they put their heart and soul in the game, and I think
and their time Sunday mornings.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And they, they get up, and without the referee, there'd be no game. And I think for me, it's just absolutely disgraceful that a referee is in danger, physical, and not let alone the verbal aggression sometimes, but to physically harm someone. That's an absolute disgrace. And I think that referees demand a lot of respect, and they're there.
I mean, we don't do it. Would you do it? Would you be a ref?
Not in the current climate, not a chance. And I think for me, it's tough. I mean, you think about it, they're refereeing, and a lot of them are doing it out of the good of their own heart as well. And on the line, they're copying abuse. And on top of that, physical abuse too. Not that I'm undermining verbal aggression. That's not good in itself. But all that said and done, it's an absolute disgrace. And I think people need to take a good look at themselves who do that and think, imagine you being in that situation where you're refereeing, officiating a game, and you got people ranting and raving at you, but also physically, you've got every right to be and feel safe in that environment. And I think for me, certainly in my experience, I'm not going to say that there hasn't been times when I've sort of watched the game as a fan or as a professional where I haven't got irate. You're a human being, you do. You get passionate. Certainly as a professional, working as a performance coach to different teams, there's been times I've got frustrated, for sure. I'm not going to sit back and say there hasn't been times, but equally saying that there's a line that I think that is clearly in the sand there. And I think that certain things that are said sometimes, and certainly any sort of physical aggression, has to be seriously condemned. And that's not good. And I can appreciate the referees getting together now and making a statement. I think it needs must. I think people need to take a good hard look at themselves and realise, these people are doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. They mean well. It's not easy to be a referee in real time. It's hard enough to get it right with VAR, for goodness sake.
There's no match without referees.
Precisely.
I mean, the FA need to nurture them. The grassroots is a big problem for the FA at the moment.
But you know what I'd like to see, Clifford, and I'd like to hear what the listeners got to say for this. This is what I think should happen, certainly at the professional game, and should filter its way through. I think ex-players should go into refereeing. I really do. I think more ex-players should officiate games, because if you're an ex-player, you know all the tricks of the trade, and you can sort of anticipate the game that little much more than someone who hasn't been there.
You appreciate the biomechanics of diving in particular.
Precisely. I think so. I think more ex-players should be encouraged to do officiating, whether it be on the lines person or whether it be referee. But more ex-players should get involved, I think, for sure, because the thing is the actual reading of the game, the picking things up here and there, just that extra split second. That's not to say you can't be a referee if you haven't played before. Of course you can. Some of the best coaches and staff in the game haven't played the game at highest level.
People would argue this is another area that ex-professionals are taking over from broadcast. There's nothing left for the individual professional.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a balance really of both. It's a balance of both, and I think for me, you create the balance where you've got players who've been in the game.
No, so it's a valid shout.
I mean, and the thing I would say, let's say you're an up-and-coming player. You're 17, 18-year-old who's making their way in the game, and officiating the game is someone that you've been to see, someone that you look up to as a player. You're going to respond different, I think. Do you not think that would be the case? And do email us your views. But imagine you say a 17, 18-year-old making your way in the game, or even older than that, you're in the game, and the officiating person is someone who's been at the game. I think you're going to have that little bit of extra, I wouldn't say respect, I think a little bit more, I think, okay, this guy or her, they've been there, done that. Let's show them the respect. But also I think that you make a good point there. We don't want to see it dominated by ex-players, but we want to see that balance between the two, I think, for sure. Your thoughts, make sure you email us. Get in touch on the Facebook page, a weekly sports show, Friday Weekly Sports Show. Let us know your thoughts. It's a really, really important subject. And think about it for one moment. Next time you drop your kids off to play sports, imagine there's no referee. The next time, if you're sitting on the sideline and your kids are playing sport, you're about to spout out something to the referee, think about what you're saying first of all, and how would you like to be in that situation? Imagine you go to work. Imagine you went to work and your boss spoke to you like that. For goodness me, some of the stuff that gets said. I know passions run high, emotions run high, but surely there's got to be a line in the sand. Surely.
Speaking of which, and she was tweeting today, and hopefully we'll try and get her on the show, is maybe the youngest female aspiring referee, hoping to make it to the Premier League. Yaz Saeed. It's a year since the BBC covered her. She'll have a great insight. We'll try and get her on the show next week. But just quickly, the FA they've got to get themselves sorted out. They've got to look after amateur. They've got to look after the grassroots in general. I mean, in the news last week saying they need to flog Wembley to pay for grassroots. Rubbish. There's so much money in the game.
Yes,
you've got to nurture the foundations of any institution.
I agree entirely. I think for me, it's got to be a collective effort. Yeah. The Premier League getting involved, collective effort as well, and saying, you know what, for the Premier League to be the biggest league in the world, they need to keep winning. The brand is a powerful brand. It's screened in every corner of the globe. You can go anywhere in the world and you can see a young person wearing a Chelsea shirt, a Man United shirt, and that's because of the brand. And I think to protect that brand, to grow that brand, it's really important to invest and bring young players through. I really think it's key. And that's
of course. The contrast as well with the wealth and the paucity of money in grassroots is it's so big now.
Well, it's become
12 pitches just shut down here in Trafford Power League. It's just one of many examples. Sports fields closing down. And this is in contrast, the head of the PFA, the Players Union, he gets 2.3 million a year now. But I'll have to come back to another big story of the week and tell us what I'd love to hear anyone that's in support of Peter Scudamore, who's been the head of the Premier League since its inception for 19 years. And football does reflect the times we live in. And if the overlord of the modern Premier League era, he's a perfect figurehead in many ways then for our current society. £5 million for him choosing to leave his job. He's had a whip round from every club, $250,000 from every club, $5 million to walk away and still be on the payroll. And that's in 1999 he declared in the House of Parliament 5% of this Premier League wealth will be put into grassroots. He reneged on that, got it down to 2%, dodged and dived. And he's earned 26.3 million after 19 years. I mean, there's no great example at the moment, is there, Jimmy? The wealth disparity.
Yeah, of course, it is what it is.
Pitches closing down all around us.
Yeah, I think it is what it is, and I think that
running out of referees at grassroots. Get involved in what you think on that. I'd love to hear someone defend him. Maybe he's the reason why they've got so much money. Maybe it was him that was behind these TV rights getting that much money.
I mean, and that's a great point you made there. I think one thing we've got to get right here as well is that the players often get criticised about how much they make and so on and so forth, but it's about market value, the brand.
It's not their fault.
I mean, the thing is really, an actor or an actress, they get paid, no one bats an eyelid if the film sells so much. And this is entertainment, and a lot of money is changed hands to watch the entertainment. And I'm not saying that what they get paid reflects what they do, because obviously if you've got to go into A&E...
They can't control market forces.
Precisely. I mean, obviously we know a teacher, a nurse, a doctor. They have a far more important role in society, you could argue, in terms of what they do. But in terms of pay scale, we live in a world, or the world that we live in, it's a capitalist society.
Yeah.
And what money gets generated, they get a slice of the cake, so to speak. I'm not saying it's right, by the way, but it is what it is. And people pay the subscription, they pay their money, and that gets sort of given out. And obviously, if people do a good job, then so be it. They're entitled to do. The only issue I have where this is concerned is when you got players who underperform. And when you got players who have been given opportunities to play in different clubs, they're nowhere near it. And you got good young players in England. You got some of the best young players in the world in England. And sometimes you get these players aren't given a chance. They're not given a chance. You see certain players, certain teams go out to other countries, be it Spain, be it South America. And that's not undermining those players. There's some great players from there too as well, obviously. But when you think, you've got to ask yourself, can a player, a local player, do as good as, if not a better job? And I think definitely. I think that it's been proven time and time again.
Of course they can. There's many myriad problems from the wealth in football.
And that's one of the issues, I think, for sure.
From what, 30% is English players in the league for a start? Is half the amount.
That's not good enough. That's not good enough for me.
Foden's just got a contract, 50 grand a week, 18. It makes you lazy.
Yes.
It's human nature.
I think for sure. But at the end of the day, it's like any of us. No one's going to complain if someone's sort of knocking on your door saying, well, here you go. You're not going to knock it back. So I don't blame the players where that's concerned. I think for me, the establishment's got to have a good, hard look at itself. And I think for me, the clubs these days have got great scouting networks. There's no player in the world now who has any ability that won't get looked at. You can be on any corner of the globe, and if you've got any ability now, the scouting networks are so good. And I think for me, these scouting networks for me, sometimes what happens, I think clubs get under pressure, they need instant success, and they go out there and think, you know what, we'll take a chance in this player. I truly think that there are players who you got to get the balance right. You got to get the balance right where if you give these young players a chance in the FA Cup, for example, if you're a Premier League team, you give the players a chance in the FA Cup. If you put them all together in one team, then it's probably not the right thing to do against a lower league team because they're going to get overwhelmed. I think the way to do it is phase them in there. You know, put 2 or 3 in there. And then sort of give them a chance to sort of grow into that role rather than, you know what, here you go, sink or swim. Extend the comfort zone, I would say. Speaking of FA Cup, our very own Stunt Pegg is going to go out and watch Salford versus Shrewsbury, the replay. We said last week was a really big surprise that Salford could hold their own against Shrewsbury. I don't think so. I don't think it was much of an upset. I don't think it'd be much of an upset if they win the game.
What was it, 2 divisions difference?
It's 2 divisions different, but also when you sort of take everything in consideration, the financial gap, the disparity, the players. Look at the team sheet, the Salford team sheet. Some of those players could easily play in league football.
It's great to get them back at home, Shrewsbury, though. To have another game is going to be a good occasion.
So Stunt Pegg's going to go there. Look after our co-presenter. Whilst he's out there. He's going to cover the game unofficially for us, and it's going to be a great game, I think. It's going to be a fantastic game. FA Cup at home, Salford. What a great opportunity to put a marker down. Win that game, and then you're on the way. You know, I think that's anybody's dream.
Yeah, we should introduce her formally. Neve Pegg is going to be our correspondent for Salford City Football Club. Games. Yeah, get you closer to all you Salford fans that are closer to the team and particular insights, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Little nuggets.
If you're listening now, Neve, give us a tweet, get in touch, make sure that you make your presence felt and do get in touch. And we're looking forward to having you back on board on the show. And we hope that you enjoy the Bolton game coming up as well too. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I think for me, what's your thoughts on the Salford-Shrewsbury? Do you think Salford can win the game? Or
It's mighty juicy game.
How important a game is it, do you think, for them? How important a game is it to put a marker down? I mean, they want to play league football. They say they want to play league football. They're making all the right sounds.
ESPN with a big interview this week, and they're convinced they're just going. I mean, they've evidenced 3 seasons in a row they've had promotion. These guys are serious in every single way. So, who am I to argue with that trajectory? I think with money and with that amount of dedication
But how important a game do you think it is for them to sort of get over the line and sort of make a splash?
These are big games, like you said, psychologically. You want to be winning first-round games.
Yeah, the issue is that they've dropped a third in the league.
That's all right. That's all right. You can't just stay at top all the time.
No,
that's
exactly.
how you react. It's how you react.
But what do you do? I mean, it's one of them really. Do you take? Can you do a good cup run? And I mean, how much does it take out of the players if you have a good cup run? Sometimes I think that you have a good cup run, it kind of takes
it's a trade-off between physical and psychological, because if you're winning, like the treble season United, it's the ultimate confidence, which you can't train.
But let's say, for example, you're a Burton Albion or you're an Exeter and you're playing against Man United one week. You're Old Trafford, you got to Man United one week, and then the following week you're somewhere in the league that, no disrespect to the teams in their league, then it's not like being at Old Trafford. Does it take psychologically something out of you where you play against, let's say Salford go on a run and get a big Premier League team? Does that sort of detract their mind? I mean, is it possible then to refocus your energy when you're going to a Harrogate, when you're going to an Aldershot? Can you then sort of like turn your attention and say, no, we've got to get the job done here?
Well, like a lot of things, down to the manager. The bigger question, I'd say, practically now for them is, how big is the squad? Can they handle the rigours of being in two competitions, throughout the whole season?
Might need to. Maybe the class of '92 might need to make a comeback.
Yeah.
Paul Scholes might need to make a comeback.
But these are questions.
He gives out some good advice on the on TV.
Yeah.
He's given some good advice to Mourinho on TV.
He could turn out for Salford. But these are the kind of questions that Nev's going to be getting up close and personal with the owners, with the players, with the manager every week from here on. And this is the sound of Salford City Football Club, Salford City Radio, Friday Sports. Whose 44th birthday is it today? One of the greatest sons of Manchester. I'll give you a clue. This is a quote by Zinedine Zidane. This might give it away. He's my toughest opponent. He is the complete midfielder. Or how about this one from Pele? If he was playing with me, I would have scored so many more goals. This is a guy who scored 1,000 goals. Who is it? Who is 44 today?
We're going to tell you after this short break.
This is your award-winning community radio station, Salford City Radio.
And who is it? Who is it? Keeping this in suspense there. I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to have a guess. We've been talking about the player this evening.
Shall I give you one more quote? I'll give you one more quote in case you haven't got it, listeners, because I'm looking at your face, Jim.
I'm just.
I think you've got it. I think you've got it.
You're going to steal my thunder.
No, I'm not. I won't tell you. Here's another clue who it is.
Yeah.
Luis Figo, not a bad player himself. This is his quote, direct quote. I'm starstruck when I see him, because you never see him. On the pitch, you can't catch him. Off the pitch, he disappears.
I've got one question that might give it away. Did Iniesta make a quote about this player as well one time?
I think there's a fair few of the greatest football players in the world.
No, definitely.
He could even be this is up for debate, obviously, but as many other things are on the show. But is he the greatest footballer of the last 20 years?
Good shout. Email us. Get in touch.
Scousers won't agree. I know that for a start.
Yeah. Do get in touch. Facebook page, the Friday Weekly Sports Show. Tell us who it is. We're not going to give it away just yet. We're going to keep it as yet. Clifford's not told me either, so I'm in the same boat as you. But I've got a suspicion. I know who it is. And I'm going to sort of have a stab in.
We'll give you another 10 minutes. Get at Sports Friday, Salford
that's right.
City Radio, at Sports Friday on the Twitter. We'll get it direct, and you'll get. You might not get a prize just yet, but you'll get the satisfaction.
Your prize is to come in the show. We'll interview you at some point.
You get to feel good. You get to show off.
Precisely. I mean, it's intrinsic, isn't it? The intrinsic nature of getting something right, the intrinsic nature of sort of winning a prize, which sort of brings us to the rugby. The performance by England against New Zealand. What a performance that was. I mean, they sort of...
That was as absolute a performance as you can get in any time. Forget that they were having a bad year sliding, the daggers were out. That first 30 minutes was the most purest performance of strategy and execution.
It was indeed.
Everything coming together. I was as shocked as the All Blacks must have been.
Yeah, I think to be fair to the New Zealand team, the All Blacks there, I think they're well aware of England's capability, and that sort of showed. One thing for sure that they would have learnt from that is teams like New Zealand, you've got to be on it for 80 minutes. You can't switch off, and I think it's a big learning experience. Had they won the game, as great as it would have been, I think it may have sort of, I wouldn't say credited false confidence. They've got good coaching staff, the players' experience, but equally in saying that now they're aware that you can't switch off against a team like that. I thought personally a bit unlucky. The refereeing decision, it was a bit unlucky.
It was a try that deserved to be valid. Such was the beauty of it. That dummy from Underhill.
Precisely. But the week before, you could argue. But this week they got Japan. Japan are a decent team. They showed at the World Cup they could. And
we know psychologically they're very, very, very tough.
Yeah, I mean they got players that play for them that have played at the highest level, and they're a good team. They beat South Africa at the World Cup, if my memory serves me correct. So they're a good team. They're certainly a good team. It's a different test for England. I think that's not going to be easy. They're going to throw the ball around a bit. They're going to attack and play. It's probably the right game. I think it's the right game to play after 2 intensive games. Yeah. The right game to play, and that'll set them up nicely for a game against Australia in the final game of the Autumn Internationals. But I think it'll be a good barometer at the end to see where they're up to. I think that they're going to need another good 2 performances, and we'll sort of see where they're up to. Going to the World Cup next year, I think it's really important. More performance, I think. Getting a win, obviously, in international sport is the most important thing. But I think performing well at this point gives you all the confidence going into the World Cup that it's winnable.
It's not hyperbole to say that was one of the most impressive performances that I can remember.
I think so. And I think for me, it also showed that New Zealand
they're human.
Are beatable.
They demystified them
precisely. And I think for me, there are a few chinks in the armour. I think so. I think they'd be the first to admit. But one thing's for sure, that come the World Cup, they're going to prepare as good as, if not better than any other team. And the whole ethos, the whole mental attitude of the All Blacks is on a whole different level. I think you look at the way they speak, the way they conduct themselves on and off the field. It really is a winning formula. I think for me, come the World Cup, it'll be a whole different ball game. But, I think it's important to sort of play week in, week out to the best ability.
It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait of 4 years to play the All Blacks. It was one of the most compelling games, and the atmosphere charged with the weather and the climactical elemental element. It was sensational, and right till the end they could have won it. It's a good time for England though. You get some young players around the loose, the flankers, Underhill, Curry. Yeah. There's some good players coming through. Wilson,
for sure.
Problem area. There's a new winger that's been 18 months in the making this weekend. I don't know if you saw, making his debut. He played against South Africa about a year and a half ago. Mind wasn't in it, but this guy's supposed to be the new wrecking ball. So keep a lookout for him. The biggest game of the weekend, though, number 1, 2, Ireland, New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, and Ireland beat New Zealand.
I think it's on Channel 4 as well.
Yeah, I believe so, and Ireland got a result, so New Zealand won't take them lightly. I certainly think Ireland's got to be one of the favourites to the World Cup next year. I think that if they fit team, they get on the run, they're going to be hard to stop. And we've seen them in the Six Nations. We've seen them get results. I think the only issue with Ireland would be the depth of the squad, but they seem to have sort of nullified that now. They've got strength in numbers, so I think that's going to be an interesting game. I think one thing's for sure, they're probably playing New Zealand at the worst possible time after that sort of scare, so they're going to come out from the off. But I'm pretty sure Ireland can go head-to-head, and they won't be overawed by that, that's for sure.
I can imagine a stretcher this weekend. It's going to be brutal.
Well,
because the Irish, no one's going to back down.
No quarter given, and neither should they. I think that's what professional sport's all about. Speaking of rugby league as well now, let's go to the other code. Not a good performance by England on the weekend against New Zealand, but psychologically, 2-0 up. What do you think? What are your thoughts? You've won the series. What do you do? Deferred game? Can you get up for it?
It's a tough one. Some of the personnel were changed. The big thing is, if you want to be the serial winners in any sport at any time in history, they're brutally ruthless, no matter who they're playing. And you shouldn't really take your foot off the gas. I mean, of course, it was a superlative effort to beat New Zealand within 2 games, to take the series, to play extraordinary, to put them on the back foot. But you can't slack up if you want to win in modern sport. And they did.
I think so. I'm going to throw it out there. I think that was an important win for New Zealand as well. I think for them, they had a disastrous World Cup for them. They got knocked out of the World Cup early. And for
who's
them,
the best team now in the world of rugby?
That's a good shout. I mean, I would say Australian Rugby League is still the forefront, but I don't think the gap is as big as New Zealand got a good result against them a few months ago.
Is rugby league bigger in Australia than New Zealand?
Oh yeah, certainly is. Yeah, for sure. I mean, New Zealand's national game is rugby union, that's for sure. So in Australia, certainly in New South Wales and Queensland, rugby league is the number one sport. But yeah, for sure, I think so, very much so. But you'd have to say that Australia is still the number one team in league. But all that said and done, I don't think the gap is as big as it has been in the past. I think the gap is probably more of a puddle than an ocean at the moment. So I think that England's got depth. They can challenge for the next tournament, that's for sure. So I'll be interested to see how they get on.
They've got a young team. They've got like the rugby union and like the England and like the football team. Like a lot of teams in England at the moment, they've got a great crop of young players.
Yeah, and that's testimony to like the work that's been done in sport in this country. I think that in the Olympics, there was a great 2 Olympic Games, third and second. To win.
Sensational.
Yeah, no, it is.
Outside of the financial doping element.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the day, I think that, I think one thing about this, about the UK, England, that's for sure. I think that overall they are fair, and I think that, there's a lot of controversy around the world, and that goes on. And I think for me, certainly when they had the Olympics at home, England, they could have easily, or Great Britain, they could have easily have put more sports in there that they were more suitable to. They could have put more cycling events in there that would have helped them along their way. But they distributed things as fair as one could do. And I think, certain places around the world probably wouldn't have done that. So I still think there's that element sometimes over here to beat themselves up more than they should do. I think, it's one of the things really, they perform really well. And that's a test to me, obviously, if athletes can go full-time and train full-time and they get support, then they're going to do well. In years gone by, the athletes didn't really get that support. I think the lottery money's come in handy. It's been a big help. And I think overall, the athletes, they do put it in. They do go for it. I don't think I've met an athlete, and I've been very fortunate to work with some of the world-class athletes over the years. I don't think I've met an athlete that has been given any sort of funding that has not done the best they can. I think every athlete I've ever met...
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Has given what they've got, for sure.
The human condition can't be more celebrated by the endeavours of the Olympiads. Ignored for 4 years on their own, all around the clock. Yeah. And it's some of the greatest storytelling in history, every Olympics. And what humans are capable of, it is still one of the most beautiful events ever. Just finishing up with rugby, though. We're in a heavy rugby league area on our compatriots on Tuesday night on the Sports Zone. A big Salford Rugby League specialist. So I just want to this week highlight our local club that's maybe, I think, perhaps the only rugby union football club in Salford. It's Eccles. And I'm just going to highlight them this week and try and introduce you to them and get you excited about them. They're completely amateur club apart from the bar staff. With no one paid, not in terms of the levels they set for each other. But I recommend you going down and have a look. They've got 20 teams at all levels, female, male, every youth group. So there's no excuse for trying your hand here at rugby. I want someone to go down and try their hand at rugby in the next week, and you can contact us to let us know how you're doing at Sports Friday.
You don't fancy putting your boots back on there, Clifford? You get on there.
I'm not ruling it out, Jim.
I can see you playing on the wing there, getting on that sort of wing. And,
yeah, that's right. Number 12.
I can play at centre free quarter, the cut out pass to Clifford. They cut Petruzzi out again.
We should go down because
we'll go down.
All rugby clubs, all sports clubs, but especially rugby clubs, are some of the most hospitable places you can go.
Oh, indeed.
And we're not talking about having to put on the old Raljecks and sweat and get hurt. They're very great social venues. Anyone's welcome. I'm just looking at the website here. Any new players, they say, of any age, any level, novice to seasoned campaigner, are always welcome. You can turn up for training, you can turn up for even coaching, but most of all, you can turn up just for the social element. So that's Eccles Rugby Football Club, holding the torch aloft for rugby union here in a very, very league-centric...
Yeah, no, for sure, very much so. I suppose you've got Sale as well, it's not too far away.
Yep, that's right, yeah.
They're not a million miles away, but like he says, obviously near to us here, it's a stone throw away, and I think, from that point of view... get down there. You've got Salford Rugby League as well. So it's a traditionally strong sporting area here, that's for sure. There's no shortage of sporting teams and people that get involved and that sort of stuff, that's for sure. So if you're listening out there and do drop us a line, and the Facebook page, the Friday weekly sports show, get involved. We want to get involved. We want to create a really, really positive community. We want to get people involved in sport at all levels. You don't have to be an international athlete to enjoy sport. No, you can sort of enjoy it recreationally. You can have enjoyment
It's one of the greatest things you're going to do.
Yeah, I think
honestly,
so.
Even if
to
you
lose
can't,
yourself for an hour and just enjoy yourself and just get out there, and it's good for your mind and body and everything else that goes
even
with
if
it.
you never did it at school, even if you've let yourself go a little bit, like we all have, maybe, especially this time
mate,
of year.
I'm in the best shape of my life, mate. You know, I just thought of some juices have come in, some of these vegetable juices of...
You're nearly a glow, Jim. For anyone listening,
I wouldn't go.
I'm basking in the glow here.
I wouldn't go as far as that, but yeah, I mean, I went. You know, the lads, the Bay Cup lads, they lost to Prestwich this week as well. Prestwich is not too far away from here in the Challenge Cup. We'd won the Challenge Cup a few years ago at Bay Cup when I was there in my first stint, and a lot of good work's going on over there. So I wish them well this weekend. I'm going to hopefully get to the game, barring work commitments as well. And do support your local teams. Get out there and go watch them. It's International Week this week. Get out there and watch the local teams.
And you'll meet new friends. You'll see, you'll be moved. You'll be thrilled.
Exactly. So, you know, if you sort of at a loose in this weekend and, you know, you pay your money, you few quid, get in there, get yourself a bite to eat.
Go down to Eccles, Rugby Union Football.
Precisely, get down there and enjoy it.
That's our recommendation of the week, and you can find them at Gorton Street. That's M37LY. Also, if you want to ease your way back in to sports, the ice rink's open for the Christmas markets in Manchester. You could be that inner Torval and Dean you can bring out. It's